Arizona dominated Northern Arizona to the tune of 84-49, riding the hot hand of Dwayne Aristode and playing great defense. Let's discuss. Thank you guys for listening. This is Postcast.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Postcast. Leif Thulin with you here. Arizona dominated against Northern Arizona. That was expected. The style of dominance, maybe not. Arizona did not play its best offensively. Some of their better players struggled scoring the basketball. But what I think mattered most is showing the capacity of having this level of defense. We talked about this in the preview, that I wanted to see more pride taken defensively. That was one of the keys I listed. Pride taken defensively, especially from the perimeter. And they answered the bell. They answered the bell big time. And in a game where Arizona did not score as efficiently as they have against Florida or Utah Tech, and where they scored 93 points, they still scored 84. But the way they did it's totally different. They were sub 50% from the field, up 29 at halftime in a game against a team that plays a slow tempo, in a game that Arizona didn't really get to set the tempo too early. And they were able to hold the team throughout the entire game to a 31% field goal percentage. And that's very difficult to do. And then the big other thing is you're going to notice, how did they do this? How did they do this from offensively with Koa Pete not particularly efficient, which is so rare, without Jaden Bradley really imposing his will other than that one stretch? The answer, Dwayne Aristode and company knocked down three balls. They knocked down three balls. Thank you to everyone in the chat. We got a few listeners already on here. Going to have more and more as we pop in. Great game. And I think the real importance of this game is UCLA is coming, or I guess Arizona's heading to Inglewood, not playing at Poly, but the matchup against UCLA is going to mean a lot. And you're going to play UCLA and Donovan Denton, players who can get to the rack and really have to take individual pride in keeping players out of the paint and keep Mo Krivas, keep Tobe Awaka out of foul trouble, which had plagued them against Florida and against Utah Tech. And the defensive performance was fantastic in this game. Arizona in the first half alone held Northern Arizona to shooting 7 of 28. That's 25%. The second half, which you'd say, oh, it was garbage time. Players, played differently. It was 38%. And a lot of that was at the very end when they made a bit of a run to make it a 35-point ball game. Like, Arizona was in control, as they should be, but it looked a little bit different because they shot a lot of threes and they defended the whole game and played unselfish basketball. They turned down a lot of good shots to get great shots. So that brings me to point number 2. You look at number 2 on this point. Arizona had not shot more than 15 threes all season. They hit 11 threes today. Arizona is not going to be a team that shoots a lot of threes, but they need to have the ability to punish teams that double. Northern Arizona took pride in trying to slow down Koa Pete. They made a game plan that said, you know what, we're going to double team him on his catches. We're going to double team him in the post-ups. Going to make the ball skip out of his hands and make everyone else make the decisions except for Koa Pete. Koa Pete probably could have scored more if he wanted to. He could have taken it upon himself to score more. So could have Jaden Bradley. But instead, the ball swung around and people got great shots. Dwayne Aristode hit a three that I remember tweeting right after I said, that looks like a confident shot from Aristode, who many have accused me of being low on. I don't think I'm particularly low in saying that I don't think he's as good as Carter Bryant. But if he's able to hit 4 threes, that infinitely raises Arizona's ceiling because you have more guys to respect offensively and defensively, because defensively he's got all the traits in the world. Can he shoot like that? That's fantastic. And then you look at what this team did to dictate pace. They were able to score the basketball decently in a game where they didn't dominate on the interior as much. They didn't score points in the paint at the same level that Arizona scored points in the paint. They scored 58 against Utah Tech and 56 against Florida from 2, right? They didn't do that in this game, not in the same way at all. This was a totally different ball game. The tenor of the game was different. And you look at the points in the paint, and it was 30 points in the paint from Arizona out of 84, as opposed to out of every point in the paint, every 2 scored, against Utah Tech was a point in the paint for 58 out of 58. Arizona against Florida scored 93 points. They had 31 free throws, 6 points off of 3. So that's 37 points. The rest of them, of the 93, that's 56 coming from 2, 50 within the paint. Arizona didn't dominate the paint because they were double teamed. They had a very vested interest in diversifying the way that they attack and shoot the ball from three. Going 11 of 26 is fantastic. That's 42% from three. They shot 40 game one, 45 game two, 42 from game three. This is a team that is capable of making shots, but they know where their bread is buttered. It's going to be scoring on the interior. Coming into this game, Arizona was 61% of their buckets and actually just totally points. Totaled points is 61% coming from two. And that's so rare. That's including free throws. That's including threes. Incredibly rare. However, if you can do that shooting 55% from two, you're going to win a lot of basketball games. Now, if you can complement that by scoring a lot of threes, that's great. Let's talk about Dwayne Aristode for a moment. This is a guy that has not played a prominent role and instead shows what he's capable of by knocking down threes. If he's hitting threes, Arizona has numerous guys that can hit him because Braden Burries is going to get more and more comfortable. I talked about him prior to the Utah Tech game that he's going to be the focal point of who's going to get the ball and lead the team in shot attempts and scoring. He scored 18 on 16 shots, not particularly great. Today, there was an emphasis that there was a thought to get him the ball and get downhill. He had a 4-point play to start the game, and I think that's the point. Everyone's locking up the middle against Arizona because they don't shoot. Well, if you can knock down over 40% of threes in a game where the lane is compacted, that changes the way teams defend, and it'll make Arizona even more difficult to defend on the interior in a game where Koa Pete really is trying to assert himself. He went 3 of 10, tough whistle, whatever you want to be. Karchenkov, 0 of 5. You don't see that too often. You look at what Bradley did. He had 13 in the first half, didn't score in the second half. He shot just 5 times. Jaden Bradley and Koa Pete are going to be just fine. I have absolutely no doubt of that. Jaden Bradley scored double digits. Koa Pete double digits. Mo Krivas. I talked about this in the outset. We'll talk about that in the keys when I review them in a moment. The keys to the game was I want to see Mo Krivas be more aggressive. He slammed one. He had putbacks, and he had 12 points on 7 shots. The efficiency is no surprise for a 7'2" guy, but you wanted to see him shoot more, and that was nearly double what his output was in the prior game. And he had 7 boards as well. I projected 14 and 8. Didn't quite get there, but you still see the vision of what he can do. Then you have Aristode in double digits as well. Arizona can have 5 guys scoring double digits every single game. Let's take a quick break and talk about the keys to the game coming your way next and assess how Arizona performed and the expectations numerically I laid out. We'll be back with that and much, much more coming up after a word from Gametime. College football's back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, but there's nothing like it. Let's be real. Actually getting the tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you buy. I pulled up the Gametime app recently, and just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Welcome back to Locked On Wildcats. Postcast, Arizona thumps Northern Arizona. No surprise there. The style that they did so, a little bit different because you typically expect Arizona to score maybe 100 points in this type of game and run them out of the gym offensively. Arizona did not do so. They played a game that looked more slowed down than typical and also knocked down more threes than they typically do. And the last thing that I would say is this is a concerted effort to play defensively oriented basketball. And the defensively oriented basketball was very impressive. Let's talk about those keys I laid out before the game. For the everydayers that listen, thank you guys. Thank you guys for everyone in the chat. Appreciate all the comments and enthusiasm behind this win. It's going to be a lot more of these. UCLA on Friday. Everyone tune in for the postcast on that one. Hope we're celebrating a victory. Okay, so my first key to the game was actually, I've got a graphic for those of you watching. I'll reward those watching. The audio people won't see it. So here's the graphic. The goal was to dominate the glass and be plus 20 on the glass. This one was not quite achieved. There was plus 13 on the glass. There's a reason for it. They shot fewer. Northern Arizona shot fewer shots, so therefore there's going to be fewer defensive rebounds. I still like to see Arizona dominate the glass a little more. Fast break points and points off of turnovers is the other thing that is very important in college basketball today. It's getting more possessions to the opponent. I've said this before to the everydayers. Matt Painter talked about when he had Zach Edey that all they have to do is limit turnovers and get the ball on the glass. They'll get more offensive rebounds and get more chances. And if they can force any turnovers and get out in transition, that's gravy. Arizona did that. They had 25 fast break points and 25 points off of turnovers. That's very, very difficult to beat if you're the opponent giving up that many points off of turnovers. Those are uncontested buckets. So key number 2 was outshoot NAU, right? Make more threes than NAU. And that'll be tough, I thought, because the only way NAU has a chance in this game is to shoot a ton of threes. And they're actually coming into this game shooting 42% from as a team from 3. NAU was not particularly good in this game from deep, and they didn't get many off until later in the game. Arizona stifled them. Arizona dominated that regard, shooting 26 threes, which is the rarity, making 11 of them, and that nearly tripled the output of NAU, who is reliant on the 3 ball far more than Arizona typically is. So certainly a check mark to that key. Then my last one was, can Mo Krivas and Braden Burries improve? Because I think what makes Arizona a really good team and takes them to being a great team is the improvement and gradual improvement from Mo Krivas offensively, because defensively, he changes every shot near the basket. He makes it very difficult to score. And if you can't shoot twos against Arizona, you have a hard time beating them because they're so good at shooting twos on the other side. Their percentage of basketball is going to be great, and it makes it very difficult unless the team makes a ton of threes to beat them. Therefore, the pride on defense is really important. We'll touch on that in a moment. And then Braden Burries, I wanted 10-plus field goal attempts, not because he's bashful or anything. Like, he's not bashful. He takes a lot of shots, but he shot 7. He scored 9 points. He was fine. I'd still like to see a little more composure. There's a couple turnovers I'd like back. But you're seeing him believe in himself after a really rough opener against Florida. As he grows into his role, Arizona becomes even more difficult. Now let's talk about the last key. I talked about it. I don't have it on this graphic. But the last key that I mentioned was take pride defensively and keeping players out of the paint, because Arizona got in foul trouble against Florida and conceded 27 free throw attempts. They conceded 27 free throw attempts against Utah Tech. And that's not very good. And they actually, those free throw attempts were all when the game was hanging in the balance. We all felt confident the Wildcats would win, but you're playing Utah Tech and you're trailing at certain junctures because they're getting to the line. They were 3 of 13 to start the game, and they had 11 made free throws in that same time frame. That's really bad. In this game, they protected the rim without fouling and kept people out of the paint, and they did so well in the first half. So I took the first half stats for you. Arizona was up 46-17 at half. The defense looked intense, prideful, and suffocating, is what my note said. And when you look at the tempo of the game, they threw in a press to slow teams down, make them throw the ball over the top, sometimes force turnovers. And they also were holding Northern Arizona, the Lumberjacks, to 25% field goal percentage, and it actually improved towards the end of that first half. So very much a check mark there. Arizona has to get better at a few things, and I would say the high-low entry passes to Mo Krivas could really improve. We got a ton of comments. I'm sorry I got behind. Let me take a few of these. I appreciate you guys and all your comments, and thank you for the support. And I'll answer a few questions here. So there's a question that says, Leif, worried about Burries yet? Looks like he's playing half speed on both ends. I do think there's an air of tentative nature about him because he wants to be really aggressive, but he slows down because his game is very much I'm going to play off 2 feet, be composed, figure out when to score, and do it in a guile-oriented way. Like, he's not going to blow you away athletically. But I also think you're going to see more of Braden Burries attacking closeouts and not having to create his own advantage. I think when you get into the thick of the schedule, you're going to see a lot of times where Koa Pete gets the ball in the middle. He skips it opposite when the help loads in, tags the roller, which in this case would be Pete. He skips the opposite side. Burries uncontested 3. Or someone closes out, he pump fakes, drives the paint, plays off 2 feet, and gets through him. I think the game's a little fast for him right now, but his game is playing at his own pace, and he's being sped up a little bit. And so once he gets back into an area where he can play at his own pace and it doesn't feel uncomfortable doing so, I think you're going to see the best of Braden Burries. I'm more concerned about the veterans that have been, decent, but not great. And I would say Mo Krivas improved today. I want to see Mo Krivas be more tenacious, especially offensively. Defensively, he is a very, very good rim protector. And I think there's a lot of criticism because he goes up soft. He's 7'2". He should dunk everything. He should dominate physically. Tobe Awaka is more of the carve out space, dominate physically, and poses well offensively. But Mo Krivas improves the ceiling more because he changes every shot the other team takes and because he makes them shoot difficult shots, and he also alters the shot chart and makes them take bad shots instead of just altering the ones they actually do take. And as for the comment that says, is Burries a little like Con Knipple? I would say he has that role. At some point in this season, you're going to see Koa Pete as the Cooper Flag and Con Knipple as the Braden Burries, or vice versa. And I mentioned that in one of the very first episodes I did. I see that vision. And I think there needs to be, as opposed to playing soft, I need to see more tenacity. As you say in the chat, I agree. You got to be more tenacious in men's league. You got to be more tenacious on the court, especially if you're Mo Krivas. So thank you guys for the questions. Let's talk about UCLA a little bit. Preview this, because UCLA, what they do very well is their point guard is Donovan Dent. He plays downhill basketball, gets to the rack, and sprays out to shooters or hits the rollman. UCLA actually doesn't play a traditional 5-man, which is rare for a Mick Cronin team. They have a 4-spacer in Xavier Booker, who was previously at Michigan State, and he's an iffy shooter, and that's what the track record is. And he's long, but physically, Arizona should really dominate that game. What they have to do is keep Donovan Dent out of the paint, which is easier said than done. And that's why I thought today there was such a concerted effort from Tommy Lloyd to say, we're going to play great defense because we're getting this ready for UCLA. But you can't overlook the opponent. I thought they had a really good balance of that. It was very intentional the way they played. I thought last game's intentionality was basically get Braden Burries acclimated because we need him in time. And they did that a ton. Today it was play a bunch of defense and shoot a bunch of threes because teams are going to load up on Kopi. I think when UCLA is the opponent, there's going to be less of this, oh my goodness, we're outmanned. We're going to play one-on-one on Koa Pete now instead of doubling. And Koa Pete's going to dominate against UCLA. I actually feel very confident in that matchup. Obviously, UCLA, Arizona rivals, anything can happen. There's a ton. But I think UCLA is not sure what their identity is because Mick Cronin likes to play slowly. This team wants to play fast. They like to play big bodies, and this team is more slender spacers. So I don't like the way that UCLA has played so far in their 3 games. They're 3-0, but they haven't won convincingly. And Arizona is number 5 in the country. I don't think Mick Cronin's team is one that he believes in right now. He even said in a press conference, like, I would fire myself after that first performance. Of course, that's tongue-in-cheek. It's facetious. But I really do think Arizona should be advantaged in that game, even though it's in Inglewood. It's not quite at Poly Pavilion or whatnot. But I think Arizona's got the physical advantage on the interior. And I actually think guard play as a whole, they know what they're doing more so than Donovan Dent, who's a star, does in his role. The other thing I would say about that game and how this one is an important test for it is Arizona was able to play in a game that wasn't played at light speed. They had fewer field goal attempts in this game. They were playing in a game that was not light speed at all, and they were able to generate good attempts. They were able to play a game that was different than their usual. And that's what Mick Cronin does typically. He likes to make you play not a fun style of basketball. And if Dwayne Aristode's hitting threes, Ivan Karchenkov is going to progress to the mean. He's been bad the last 2 games, but he's a really good shooter. I think Jaden Bradley is just lurking in plain sight. He's going to score a lot of points, and he's going to control tempo. And we saw against Florida, when the game gets close, he has the utmost confidence he can get downhill and score the basketball. So I think the best 2 players for Arizona have basically acted as decoys for the past 2 games and will not do so against the Bruins. I think you've got the confidence of the other players, the ancillary pieces growing, and the best 2 players know that's really important down the road. Now let's go feast against the Bruins. We'll take one more break, come back with some more thoughts about previewing the Bruins, as well as thoughts on this game and just the statistical enormity with which Arizona can achieve their offensive efficiency. Like, it's so rare that a team can score this efficiently on an off night. So let's talk about how good Arizona can be offensively, and I'll lay out my path to Arizona being the number 1 team in the country. We're closer than I thought. I sensed some doubt in my vision a while ago from you guys when I said I think Arizona can be number 1 in the country by January. We're up to 5 already. So bear with me there. I'll lay out the vision for you once more and talk about upcoming matchups. All that and more ahead on Locked On Wildcats postcast. Thank you guys for joining, of course. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game day exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked on Wildcats postcast. Arizona throttled NAU, 84-49 the score. The usual suspects weren't the leading scorers, but there were multiple players in double digits. They scored relatively efficiently, but nowhere near as efficiently as Arizona is capable of doing. They scored more efficiently against Florida and more efficiently against NAU. The point I'm trying to make here is Arizona is going to be a prolific scoring team because in a game where they did not shoot well, they shot 47%, which is bad for them. They still scored 84 points because they generated easy looks, scoring in transition. They weren't particularly good at offensive rebounding this game. 13 offensive rebounds, 12 second chance, which is okay. But Arizona has the capacity to be one of the best offensive teams on the first shots because they score 60% so far this season. Last year was 55. I think it'll probably be somewhere in the middle, 55, 57% on the year of their points from two. And all of those points are within the paint. So if you're scoring 57 points percent of your points from the paint and you're scoring 90 per game, that means you're going to be scoring 53 points per game within 10 feet all around the basket. And you have one of the best players in the interior in Koa Pete, and you have offensive rebounder creators in Tobe Awaka, who can also score in the paint. And you have Mo Krivas, who I think is only going to improve. And I think you're going to see more aggressive Jaden Bradley, whose bread is buttered in the paint as well. So this team's going to score a ton in the paint. They're going to do so efficiently all season long. I virtually guarantee Arizona will be a top 10 team in efficiency this season, offensively on the first shot. And I think next year, not next year. I think the thing that helps them is the offensive rebounding will improve. And so if you get first chance efficiency top 10, and then you get second chances more frequently, I think you're going to be a top 5 team offensively. I've also talked about that the rebounding margin is going to only go up as this team becomes more set in what they do. I think it's a top 15 rebounding margin team. And I also see a real world where Arizona's tempo, let's check if KenPom's updated right now. I told you guys I think they're going to be a top 15 KenPom tempo team because Tommy Lloyd, 3 of his first 4 seasons, he was 9th, 15th, and 16th in tempo last year, his worst year, which was still a good year. It's a bit of a misnomer. Everyone says, oh, it was terrible. It was not terrible. That team played at 49th in tempo. Right now, Arizona's at 43rd in tempo, and that's because today was very slow by Arizona standards. They get that up and probably into the top 20. I think there's no way Arizona doesn't end as a top 2 seed in March Madness. Because let's review that. You're going to score 85 points a game or more. You're going to be one of the most efficient teams offensively because you're going to score a ton of layups, a ton of wide open dunks in transition. You're going to get second chance points. You're going to play very quickly. And then the next point you're going to make is if they can make threes, watch out because you're going to be even more offensively brilliant. I see in the chat 90 points per game, probably a bit steep. I wouldn't be surprised if this team scores 85 though. And that's in a very good Big 12 conference. And 85 is going to be plenty good, and it's going to be one of the best of the high major teams in the entire country. Now, defensively, that's what the takeaway was today. The defense was great. And if you look at what Arizona did defensively, they're up to 15th in defensive rating. And typically, if you're top 20 in both, by the end of the season, you're a Final Four contender. So I'm pretty confident in Arizona's chances to be a top 20 finisher in offensive efficiency, top 20 in pace, top 20 in defense, and that makes them a very, very real team. So let's talk about UCLA and what's next on the non-conference and why I believe Arizona's got a very, very good chance to run the gambit and have a chance to be 18-2 or better within 20 games and be the number 1 team in the country by January. My pitch is essentially they beat Florida. They were supposed to lose that game by 5 points. Then they were supposed to lose by 5 to UCLA. Now they're favored by the analytics. They're supposed to lose against UConn. I actually do think they probably lose against UConn, but we'll discuss that more. I would not be surprised if they win. I just think UConn is one of the best teams in the country. It's also in Storrs, Connecticut, all the way traveling from Tucson. And then you play Auburn, who I think is fraudulent. They're not good at all. And then you're going to see Alabama and San Diego State. Those are the 6 marquee games. Then you got games like this one where they blasted NAU. I think there's every possibility Arizona goes 5-1 in that. I could see them go 4-2, and then you start off 11-2 because you win all the gimme games, the bye games. And then you play a very porous start to the Big 12 schedule. And I'll read that off. For those of you who've listened already, I've given this pitch. The start is Utah at Utah. Arizona right now is favored to win by 9. Then you play Kansas State at home. Arizona favored to win by 12. Then TCU. I love Jamie Dixon. Don't get me wrong. This team already lost in New Orleans. Arizona's favored to win by 7. Then you play ASU on the road. Excuse me. ASU at home, favored to win by 15. So that's 4-0. UCF away. That's a tricky game because UCF is a tough travel, but they're not particularly good. That's a team picked 13th in the conference. That is 88-80 is the projected score, and that's winning by 8. So none of these are particularly close. Then you go Cincinnati and West Virginia. Both of them, Arizona is projected to win by double digits. And you get to 7-0 in conference play. 7-0 conference play. And you go 11-2 in non-conference with wins against teams like UCLA, like Bama, like UConn. Already have them against Florida. If you have those wins and you're 18-2 overall, number 1 in the country is very doable. Not to mention, I had Arizona before the season. I said number 8 in the country. I thought a lot of you guys were on board because that's your team. But many have voiced skepticism already. And many national people voiced skepticism to that as well. You move from 13-5 after 1 week, after one big win. The resume is perhaps the best in the country already. You can already bolster it by beating a UCLA team that was rated too highly to begin, but it looks good to beat them. So beating UCLA puts Arizona within the conversation of being a top 3 team in the country. And that is very, very possible. So Arizona dominates Northern Arizona. That's what we wanted. That's what we saw. The keys of the game were mostly successful. I think there's more rebounds to be had, and you can even ramp that up and get more free points. Defense looked way better, and hitting 11 threes, that's gravy. That's icing on the cake. One last check through these. I'm going to talk about some of the questions, then we'll wrap up, and I'll get another episode up for you guys recapping this in the morning. Thank you guys for tuning in. So let's talk about some of these questions. I would say, to answer the question, 90 is probably steep. 15 opponent points, very steep. I appreciate the optimism, of course. BYU going to smoke us, but I'm not scared of Houston. I don't think BYU is good yet. I think they will be very good down the road. I saw BYU play North Carolina in Salt Lake, and North Carolina looks pretty solid. They beat Kansas thoroughly, but BYU didn't impress me in that game. I think the continuity between Rob Wright and AJ and Richie Saunders, that whole backcourt, who's going to get the ball when, is off. They're actually struggling with Delaware right now. We have to look out for Utah. As for Houston, I think Houston's very good. Their floor is as high as anyone in the country. I think they got some figuring out to do in terms of their offensive hierarchy, having lost LJ Cryer and Juwan Roberts. And I think right now, number 1 in the country is probably a bit steep for them. They'll figure it out, though. Look out for Utah. I think Utah is terrible. They nearly lost to Weber State. However, Utah nearly beat Arizona a couple years ago. I was at that game, so who knows? And then you look at the last couple. Colorado does have an awesome tall guy. He was there last year, and I think Arizona's bigs are better. And I bet the Cats to make the Final Four, as did I. I think it's a good bet. And then if you were to say how much to win the conference, I think Arizona's got a great chance to win the conference, sincerely, because Arizona can start 7-0 in conference and then go 500 ball the rest of the way, and that gets you to 13-5. Like if you finish the year 6-5 after starting 7-0, which I think they very well can, outlining it, then I would say that's a pretty good chance. So, I mean, you do what you want with your money, but I don't think that's crazy. I think it's crazy. We're getting some ASU fans in the chat. Appreciate you guys, all of you guys, for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Final takeaways. Dwayne Aristode starred in this game, scored 18. Arizona hit 11 threes. Made NAU shoot 25% from the field, got 25 points off of fast break points. And they not only did they score those off fast break points, this isn't a game where Koa Pete and Jaden Bradley did not assert themselves in the half court, and they were still able to score decently efficiently in what was a non-script game. I'm pretty impressed with Arizona right now. I think the defense will translate. I feel pretty good. I'm going to take Arizona to beat UCLA. And thank you guys for tuning in. Last thought, I'll have more of a in-depth breakdown of what needs to go right against UCLA matchup and keys to the game on that one. So tune in all week on Locked On Wildcats. And we'll also have a football preview for you for against Cincinnati in a big game with Arizona already clinched bowl berth. But how good can they be? What bowls will they go to? All that and more on Locked On Wildcats this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate your guys' support.